Hi, this is Anna Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole. I am your host, the Salty Bitch. So I am doing this one. I'm so excited. I watched Inside Out 2 last night, and I am doing a movie review. I do movie reviews occasionally, and I usually only do it when I'm really, really pissed off at a movie or really, really excited about a movie. And in this case, I am very much excited about this film. I walked into this film with absolutely bottom of the barrel, low expectations. Now, I watched Inside Out 1 and I loved it. Like, I'm walking around, I am the poster child walking around, like promoting that thing for like everyone needs to watch it. Watch Inside Out. It is extraordinary. They nailed the subconscious mind beautifully, like they perfected it. So when I saw that they were bringing in new emotions, I went, perfect. That's exactly the way it is. Emotions do not come in until you reach a certain level of development. And there's more. Every time you upgrade into the next level of ethics, you develop more emotions. So this is normal. They were spot on with it. It was beautiful. So they brought in the introduction. They carried in new people. And I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler alert, if you have not seen it, you should not be watching this video because I'm not going to censor myself. And when I started watching this film, I was absolutely bottom of the barrel, low expectation. I had seen some YouTube reviews and they had completely trashed anxiety. They had slandered it. They'd ripped it apart. They'd made a few comments about, well, if she's got her emotions, then why doesn't her mom and dad all have all the emotions? And this is where it was just gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. I walked in with really low expectations because the reviewers basically trash talked the film, and I need to not listen to people. So I walked into this film and I made it very clear to my daughter, no expectations. I'm expecting them to get this wrong. I'm expecting to be pissed off, low expectations. And they blew me away. They were spot on. They outdid themselves. And every step of the way was just fucking sound. It was beautiful. There is a moment where they have suppressed emotions and they are put in the vault in the back. And I screamed, I went, oh my God, it's the fourth level of the subconscious mind. That's where I lived for 32 years. It was wonderful. It was really weird seeing my home literally on screen called the vault. And I'm like, oh my God, I lived there. That's the closet of the fourth level. So for me, it was very, very intimate. It was very, very personal. Just a minute. I live in New York. Okay, good. That did not last long. So it was absolutely breathtaking. It was just beautiful. And at one point, I love this. In the very beginning, she introduces this boingy, bouncy thing that literally rejects all unwanted memories into this rejector thingy. And it's going to go all the way in the back of the mind where we're not going to think about it. It was beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, don't do that. And sure enough, she went through and she cherry picked all of these emotions, making sure that the bad ones, or not emotions, I'm sorry, memories, and making sure that the bad ones didn't contaminate the joy and the happiness. So she put them in the rejector thingy, disposable thingy, and threw them into the back of the mind. I loved it. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. And it was beautiful. It was just like, those are going to come back to haunt you. And they do. They always do. And it was just a masterpiece. It was absolutely breathtaking. And then they upgrade the panel. There's construction going on. They bring in the new emotions. The new emotions were like, now, and this is where I start to nitpick just a little bit. Fear's real name should be self-preservation. That is not fear. That is self-preservation. If you hit fear, you've got other problems. Like, fear should be a virus that comes in later, but things have to go really bad for fear to come in. So what fear really is actually self-preservation. And once you reach a level, basically, if anger and joy and fear were completely put in the brig and then rejected, then fear would come in. So really what would have happened is fear would have come in accompanied with anxiety. Fear and anxiety come in after you have suppressed the other three emotions. So basically, so that is where things get a little off. But like I said, this is a really, really high-end detail where you really need to know the subconscious mind to understand the order of events. So the sequencing was slightly off there. But, and aside from the fact that they're calling fear rather than self-preservation, again, it's minor. Once you understand fear's relativity to love, it's a completely different thing. So they are suppressed emotions and they get rejected, thrown into the back of the mind, and they're in the back of the mind. And the whole movie is them trying to get back to headquarters. And when they are there, they're basically learning all the different and new segments or the upgrades of the subconscious mind and how it works. And again, it's absolutely beautifully done. You have the belief center being introduced, which is fucking perfect. It's spot on. And what I loved is when you see the belief system, which is logic, but then you get into this one section, they're in imagination land. And personally, that's like my God, oh my God, they're in imagination land. That's my bad. So we get into imagination land and they secret themselves in, and there's like this secret anxiety has imaginations all sitting there chained to the desk, and they're building and they're writing up all these possible outcomes. It was hilarious, and they're all if and then clauses, and I'm like, there's the logic, and this is exactly it. It was so beautiful because the imagination really, and if you step outside of childhood and you look at what on a whole, on a Pythagorean psychological level of what the imagination really is, it is our storyboard. That's what it is. It is our what could happen in the future, what did happen in the past. It's literally a projector. This is optic physics in physics. This is your projector in physics, where you are projecting storyboards and concepts because you are playing around with logical code through if-then clauses. I was just talking to my daughter about this regarding plot convenience, how plot convenience is the bane of all authors' existence. We are not, it is rule number one of an author is you do not break plot convenience, which is really funny because we were talking about Inside Out and how this plays into it. There's a moment where fear, boom, he's got a parachute just randomly. And the beautiful thing about that is any other movie, this would have been plot convenience. Any other movie, this would have been bullshit. But because it's fear, of course he has a parachute. Why wouldn't he? So the fact that he's got this parachute, he pulls it out, and it's a beautiful moment because it's so in character. It's not at all plot convenience. So that plot convenience, or that plot, this is the skill that authors use when they build a story. It's the if-then clauses. It's the logical sequencing code of if A happens, then B happens, then C happens. You're setting up dominoes. And you cannot break the sequence. It's like rule number one of logical code building. And imagination's job is to hypothesize the trajectory of the mathematical probability of events occurring. If A happens, then B will happen. And there's that if-then clause again. So they didn't call it the logical center. They didn't call it logic. Oh, but it was there. Boy, was it there with all the if-then clauses. So then they're sitting there like writing up all these hypotheses and probabilities and, well, this could happen, this could happen. And anxiety is going through these things, these little images that come through. And at one point they completely derail the whole thing and it goes haywire. And anxiety goes, oh my God, my projections. And it's like the best line in the film. It was so hilarious. No, my projections. That's anxiety. All right. And the way they tied it in at the end, when anxiety gets out of control, and doesn't she? And she's sitting there like holding like death grip onto the console. And then Joy comes in and she's talking to anxiety and she's like, you've got to let her go. It was so beautiful. And at the very end, you see them with anxiety, and anxiety's got her little self-care area. And they nailed it. So anxiety sits down and she's got her little tea and she's calming down. And they assign her, and this is like the real highlight here, is they assign her, why don't you go study for this? That's what you can control. And that's it exactly. It's the learning, the education, the focus your attention on what you can control. And then anxiety settles down and goes away completely, which answers the question, where are mom and dad's advanced emotions? It's because they know how to manage their emotions. That's why they're not around, is because mom and dad know how to manage their emotions. And it was funny, my daughter was mentioning this in the movie. She's like, where are theirs? And I went, mom and dad know how to manage their emotions. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, that's what you should be learning how to do, is to manage your emotions. And if you don't know how to manage your emotions, well, you're going to have anxiety running all over the place, running things with envy. You don't want envy and anxiety in charge. A lot of us have anxiety and envy in charge because you're not managing your emotions. So they absolutely outdid themselves. It was just constantly, I was sobbing at one point. It was a huge, this movie is not for children. It is not for children. This movie is for adults. Like every adult needs this film. It was really written for adults. There's this one moment when they're ripping out the imagination and the imaginations are all sitting there scribbling away at all these anxiety-ridden projections. And Lewis Black comes in with his anger and he screams at them, anxiety's got you all changed to the desk. And it's like, yeah, that's anxiety. And it's, you don't have to take it anymore. And it's like, no, we're not. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to see him free the imagination from anxiety. Oh, it was absolutely like, it was so not metaphorical. For every adult watching this film, it was literal. It was so literal. My daughter's watching it like, oh, look, metaphor. No, 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 no. For adults, it's literal. Literally, anxiety like has imagination chained to the desk, and we're not going to take it anymore. It was beautiful. It was like the one message in the film that just screamed at all adults, guys, free imagination. And then at the very end, like the whole thing revolved around her sense of self. And it developed this gorgeous, this orb thing, and this geometric orb. It wasn't just an orb, it was something different. It was beautiful. And Joy was explaining that this thing from her belief system is her defined sense of self. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the ethics. And an ethic is the defined sense of self, by the way. That is exactly what an ethic is. So I was like, oh my God, they have an ethic. And they didn't call it an ethic. They called it the sense of self, but it is an ethic. That is absolutely, the ethics are the beliefs that accumulate and then create the orb and the sense of self. So then they rip out of the sense of self. She's got to go get the sense of self back and bring it back. It's a whole thing. And then at the very end, there's just two parts that really hit me hard. They're at the back. I'm going to cry again because this really hits home with every adult who's ever struggled with this. You see this moment where she gets to the back of the mind. She finds the sense of self, and it's just joy in the sense of self. The emotions are suppressed. They're lost. They're cut off from the main headquarters, the conscious awareness. And you get this moment where Joy is starting to like wander back further into the back of the mind. And that hit hard. I'm like, every adult, and that's every adult on the planet right now. Every adult has been there where they've lost joy. They've lost the sense of self. And there is this line in the film where they say, maybe adults just aren't supposed to have joy. And it really hit hard. It really hit hard. I just lost it there. And then at the end, they bring it back and they put it back, and it's not. Now they've got something new. And you've got anxiety with her sense of self that's just anxiety, where she's going, I'm not good enough. And then you've got this, I'm a good person. And they finally break them both off, and this new one forms. And you see all the parts of Riley. You see them change and mold. And you see all the emotions come together. And they hug her like we love all of her. I had this moment with my alters. I was there with my alters. And I can't imagine watching this movie prior to this reconciliation and it's self-reconciliation. We're going to add those words, people, self-reconciliation. And this is really this is the discovery of the self. It's self-reconciliation. And why are we not getting these words sooner? Like, this is the word, people, self-reconciliation. Google it. It doesn't exist. Google reconciliation and then just add self to it. Because this is really what you are doing, is you are reconciling with the self. And you see that at the end. You see her civil divide of the self. You see a part of herself lost at the end. And then to see that come back with them all reconciling, realizing it's all of us here. And it is all of you here. It is such a beautiful, beautiful thing that just comes together. And that could not have been done more beautifully. So I'm going to say it a million times over again. Absolutely watch the film. It is such a huge impact film. Get everybody in the world to watch it. You watch this film, and this film literally, it's like, with my Try to Killing, it's where I start Try to Killing. Like, first watch Inside Out and Inside Out 2, and now let's do Try to Killing. And Try to Killing breaks down the theory as to all the parts, how to do what they're doing in these movies. So it actually saves me time, because I don't have to go out and make these films. I can just go here, watch Inside Out in 1 and 2, and now I'm going to explain the theory and the subconscious mind behind it. It's absolutely breathtaking, beautifully done. And I cannot talk about these movies enough. They are just masterpieces. It is like so simple. It is so clear. And they are 100% aligned to integrated mathematics and Pythagorean psychology. They are absolutely right on par with all of my work. They are breathtaking. So absolutely watch the film, and could not speak higher of it. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.